Good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. So, today we are live again on this live session on the mission to spread knowledge, share knowledge, spread the positivity, and go live with a resilience coach who talks about how to be resilient in life, different things. So, let's get Josh on this live. Josh Connoly. Here we go.
How you
Good
doing?
afternoon, Josh. Good, and yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, doing.
For coming on this live today to join me on the mission to share the knowledge, spread the positivity in terms of what you do, how you do it, how you've achieved success. And thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, good, mate. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to what sort of conversation we're going to have. It's always exciting. So
Super, super. Um, Josh, before we move on and start with our conversation, if you can introduce yourself. I know you're a resilience coach, you're an ambassador at one of the charities, but still, it's always good to hear it from the guests who come on here to share that with us. So go ahead and introduce yourself as to who you are and what is it exactly that you do.
okay, so yeah, as you've said, I work as a resilience coach. So I work in my sort of professional life with individuals and organisations around the world, delivering kind of what I call a new approach to resilience. So predominantly emotional resilience. So I've worked with lots of different corporate environments. I work quite closely with organisations like Intel, Epson, Dyson. I've worked with Levi Jeans, MNC Saatchi. So a lot of different sort of corporate organisations, but I also work with the police service and the fire service locally as well. And I've delivered those workshops in schools as well. So I've worked with children as young as 5 and 6 years old. And then
So
as well
from
as that,
children all the way to the corporate world, it could be a 5-year-old kid to maybe an 80-year-old CEO kind of thing.
exactly that. Exactly that. Yeah. And literally, like I say, as young as 5 years old, right up into leadership teams within corporate environment.
Yeah.
And then I'm also an ambassador for NACOA as well, which is the National Association for Children of Alcoholics. So I
Okay.
do a lot of work around raising awareness for people that have been affected by parents drinking as well. So that's kind of the two things that I do. Yeah.
Super. That's absolutely amazing. Josh, before we go ahead and get into the deep end of the conversation, just to take you a few years back into your childhood, teenage years, I know you speak to kids, you bring that resilience into kids, whatever they're dealing with at home, getting that out of them so that they can have a better future. So taking you a few years back into your childhood, teenage years, when we are at school, college, university, we grow up and we see a lot of careers in front of us. It'd be an architect, it'd be an engineer, lawyer, doctor, artist, musician, whatever it is. I mean, what did you think? What did you aspire to be when you were growing up? Was it this that you're doing today? Or was it something totally different to what you're doing today?
Look, because of the environment that I grew up in and the way that my dad was, literally my only aspiration was to not have a problem with alcohol. I mean, I literally didn't look past that. I just wanted to have children and to not have a problem with alcohol. And yet, at just the age of 18 years old, I found myself with a child and a serious problem with alcohol. So I never envisaged doing what I do today. Not certainly not when I was growing up. No.
But
So
before you got to the, sorry, excuse me, before you got to the age of 18,
mm,
what was the motto in life? What did you want to do? I mean, of course, whatever you got into, and we'll talk about that. But before that age, or before you had your child and you found yourself to be an alcoholic, what is it that as kids, maybe become a police officer, maybe become a lawyer, maybe become a dentist? We see so many
yeah,
careers in front of us. I know you had your father who was going through that issue as well. And possibly maybe that's the reason that you didn't look at anyone in aspiration. But
mm.
was there something burning in your heart that if you had the years back again, what would you do differently? So this is what I want to get at.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an actor. I loved drama at
Okay.
school, and
Okay.
I loved football. So I guess
Okay.
that there was always the dream and aspiration to either be an actor or a footballer.
Well,
Um,
I can say this for sure. You've got the face for both of them.
yeah, I wish having the face would could actually make me succeed in being either one of them. I mean, look, I still play football. I play football today, but only sort of amateur level. But yeah, they were the aspirations. But I would also sort of caveat that by saying, like you said, because my dad was the way that he was, it was very difficult for me as a child to even sort of have any belief that there was something more for me out there. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I had dreams, but I never I couldn't call them aspirations because I just didn't believe somebody like me could achieve anything in life. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's a good point you say that, because today you're dealing with kids and you're going out there and giving your talks and you're speaking to them. Do you actually say that to them to go out there and get whatever you want because today you believe in it, right? I mean, if you can do it, any other kid can do it. So
Yeah.
how do you go across, how do you come across with that sort of, a kid might come up to you and say the same thing that, oh, Josh, I'm going through the same thing at home that you did. How do I build my future? How do I see, okay, I want to be a doctor. How do I get there? I
Mm.
mean, what do you say to them at that point?
Look, I think the thing that often gets missed out, and I think is one of the most important things that you need to do, is actually before we kind of create and give these young people that hope, is often to validate what they're actually struggling with. So a lot of them, when you get to them at that young age, have experienced such difficulty in their life, they're not even asking me or saying, Josh, I want to be a doctor. What do I do to get there? They're much more in a space of, that'll never happen for me. There's no hope for somebody like me. I can't get to that space. So first of all, it's
A
about saying,
5-year-old kid saying that? A 5-year-old, he's got his whole
you,
life in front of him, you know.
So yeah. Maybe at 5 years old, at 5 year old, they don't have the
The
articulation to be
thought,
able to do
the
that.
thought process,
The
yeah,
thought
exactly,
process to do that. Yeah.
yeah.
But but they will be acting out. 5 year olds tend to be acting out the ways that they feel in different ways. And actually, a 5 year old is much closer to like their normal is just their normal. So they don't even really see that what they're experiencing is wrong, right? When you get to 10 years and up, that's when you start to have these kind of conversations where they've then kind of been conditioned to the idea that there's nothing more for them. But that's why you raise a really good point when you talk about 5 year olds, because that's the age I really do believe that we should start introducing the idea of emotions and feelings with children, is at that age, because they're still so curious, right? They're still so accepting of whatever it is that's being
Like a
presented
sponge,
to them.
you throw anything to them, they will absorb it.
Exactly. So that's the kind of age you really do want to get to them. That's when you can go straight in and say, look, you can be anything you want to be. Don't worry about the ways that what you're experiencing in your life now. You can be anything. If you leave it too long and then they get to 10, 11,
10,
12,
11.
13 years
They're
old.
already experiencing everything at home. They're getting that stress, trauma, whether their parents are going through any difficulties, alcoholism, drugs, whatever it is. They're thinking about all of those things. They're seeing other kids, how they're living their lives. The fact that maybe their own friend, their best friend, has got the best life. None of his parents are going through anything, no issues at all. And that sort of brings that depressed, envious feeling in the
Mm,
child that, why not me? Why can't I do this? Why aren't my parents like that? So
exactly.
it's a good point that you raise, that you should have this embedded with these children at these young ages, so that when they are at that level of 13 or 14, they can put all of those emotions on the side and they can concentrate on what they actually want to be. So that's an amazing thought that you have there. But coming back to what you were doing, you mentioned that you had a child at the age of 18. You were going through issues that you had within your life. And the fact that you pointed out that you didn't want to get into that. So how did you end up into that?
So when I was 24 years old, I was 24 years old when I stopped drinking alcohol, and I had 4 children by that stage of my life, and a failed marriage already by then. And I made a decision to take my own life when I was just turning 25. So I'd stopped drinking for about 9 months. Every feeling that I'd ever used alcohol to run away from came flooding back, and I couldn't deal with it. And what happened is I was going to take my own life. I made a very conscious decision to do so, and I went to see my children for one last time. And because in my mind I knew I was going to die, the past became irrelevant and the future was non-existent for the first time. And so for the first time ever, I was present with my children in a way that I'd never experienced before. I remember cuddling my daughter and feeling it in a way that I'd never experienced. And I changed my mind. But more importantly than changing my mind, I realized that what was killing me was coming from inside. It was all these emotions that I'd suppressed and buried down and not being able to deal with. They were what was killing me. And then so in the kind of 8.5 years that it's been since then, I've been on my own journey of trying to understand what that is and what that means. And my life has changed tenfold. And having that realization about myself, I was then able to kind of start to look at things in a tangible way and think, you know what, I can share some of these learnings. I can share some of the work that I'm doing with other people, and they may be able to kind of experience some of the massive change that I've experienced in my life. So that's how it was born. And then I went full time doing the work that I do maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. So,
And that's how you got into resilience coaching.
and
What is it
yeah,
about? What is resilience? I mean, we hear all sorts of coaching, right? Mentor, business coach, sales coach, marketing coach, everything to do with business or life, psychology, whatever it is. What is resilience coach all about? How do you go about build that resilience in someone so that they don't take their own life? Like you just mentioned, you
yeah.
walk through that, you change your mind, and today you're a totally different person. So in effect, you've got a second life,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you speak to them about, and what is resilience coaching all about? If you can take me through that.
So look, there's often a belief that resilience is the ability to just be able to just keep going, that I've got to be able to do it alone, and that I've got to be able to kind of keep moving forward no matter what, right? And for me, that's not what resilience is. For me, resilience is about reconnecting with myself on a deep enough level so that I can understand exactly who I am, right? And with that understanding of who I am and what I'm feeling, I'm then able to get the resources in my life to be able to get the things that I need, right? So resilience coaching becomes about helping, whether it's individuals or organizations, but helping them to reconnect with themselves, to get the self-actualization that's needed to then be able to go out and source the resources that I need in my life. Okay. It is in that way very simple, but actually the way that it plays out is often very complex because we have so many.
Is it a type of a psychology coaching, or is it completely different? Because you mentioned about going out and finding yourself first, and then finding the resources to get to where you want, So is it something to do with the inner self, or the fact that I've got someone like yourself as a coach, and I go and speak to them and I take that on board and I move forward in terms of whatever teachings I've got from you, I apply that to my life rather than thinking about what the coach has said and how I can change myself within instead of going out and finding those resources outside. I mean, how I would say it is that if I take someone's teachings on board, I apply to it first myself. And then if I cannot, then I go out of my way to find the resources to apply those teachings again.
Yeah.
How would you think is the right method to do it? Do you learn that from the coach, or do you get that from outside and put those two together and then move forward?
So I think it's actually much more about kind of what you described in the first instance, which is, as a coach, it's my duty to create a space and almost metaphorically hold your hand while you go in and dive in and find out what you need. Because strategies that I use in my life might not work in your life,
Of
right?
course, we're all
Because
different, right? It's like
we're all
these
different.
fingers.
Exactly. We're all completely different human beings. So my job as a coach really is to be able to give you the support first to kind of dive into yourself. But secondly, the real skill in coaching really is asking the right questions and sensing when I feel like you're not doing something, or like you're bringing something up. I'll say, I'm not really sure if I'm buying that when you say that. So let me ask you this, yeah, and stuff like that. And then the questions help you to dive in and find out what you need yourself. I always say I can't tell you what you need, because you're different to me, right?
Of course.
So yeah, coaching's much more about aiding you in exploring what to find what you need. You know.
Super. You've been doing this for 4 years now.
Hmm.
You've been in this industry coaching different people. What has it been like dealing with people? You know, first you were dealing with yourself, you were trying to get out of that situation that you were in, and you did well. You know, hats off to you in terms of not doing what you thought, and you've gone on and now you're helping other people. How has it been dealing with other people and knowing about all their, you know, like in a lot of movies we see this, like there's someone who's alcoholic and they have like that rehab center where they go and sit with people, they talk about their issues, but sometimes those issues are so overwhelming that they might just end up the same way where they were before because of
Mm.
listening to all of that stuff. So how do you deal with these people, and how do you take in their you know, their thoughts, their stress, their aggravation, their motives in life, and how do you move forward with them, and how does it not affect you as a human being?
So you
Sorry,
have to,
I've asked a few questions together,
yeah.
but they all sort of make sense
They
in
all
a
make
relevant.
sense. Totally, yeah. And look, the first question is kind of like the self-care piece, right? How do I make sure that I don't take on people's struggles as my own responsibility, right? So there's a really important piece there, in terms of making sure that, look, I'm not here to save anybody, right? I can't save anybody, right? That's not my duty. And I can't fix anybody, right? My job is to support people where they're at in the hope that they'll be able to empower themselves. So understanding that as my core value and my core sense of purpose is really, really important, because it helps me to let go of the outcomes and know that, you know, if I think it's my duty to save somebody, then each and every time that doesn't happen, I feel like a failure, right?
Of course.
That's not my job. My job is, I talk about stepping into people's darkness and sitting for a while to support them where they're at. Much like, if you had a friend that was in hospital with a physical illness, right? And your job was to go and support them. You don't go and visit them and think, if I visit them, it's my job to make sure that this illness doesn't get them. You go, I'm going in to visit and support. So I first have to understand that. But then secondly, I need to make sure that I'm working with people myself. So I have my own coach. I have a circle of people within my kind of ecosystem that I'm in regular contact with, yeah, that I'm doing lots of speaking with, sharing with, listening to make sure, let me check in with myself amongst other people. And then I have a daily routine as well, morning and evening, where I check in with my mind and my body, and I say, how am I feeling here? Am I fit to be able to do the things that I'd like to go in the world and do today? So there's a lot of work that goes into it on myself to make sure that I'm in a space where I'm able to do the work that I do on a daily basis.
And that's what sort of recharges you in terms of dealing with different people on different levels, whether it's a child, whether it's a CEO, whether it's a big team of organization, whatever it is, that's how
Yeah.
you deal with that. Um, what has been your biggest challenge doing this, doing what you're doing today?
Just a
I mean,
kind of,
you come across. I mean, in the UK alone, there's a big problem of alcoholism. There's a big problem of drugs. Not just using it as a recreation, but actually becoming an alcoholic, or a drugaholic, whatever it is. What are your biggest challenges when you come across people like these? And how is it that you tend to change their life around, and how you've changed your life around?
I think probably the biggest challenge is to know that so much of it can't be fixed. So particularly when I work with children who are growing up with alcoholic parents, right? If I go into a school and I know that there's problems at home, that mum or dad is maybe caught up with drink or drug addiction or whatever it may be, there's nothing I can do to stop their mum or dad having a problem with alcohol or drugs. And that's the hardest thing, right? Because that's like, it's not like something else where, I don't know, if they've got like a lack of food, you can go, let me go get you some food. Here you go. Now you have enough food, right? When it's an alcoholic or a drug addicted parent, if they can't reach that place where they're going to get help and support and change or whatever it might be, then you can't change that for a child. And all you can really do is try to empower them with the tools that they need to make the best of what is a really difficult situation. So there's no fix. And I think that's the hardest, because sometimes I go into these schools and particularly when I'm working with young people, and you want to scoop them up and take them away, but that doesn't fix the problem either.
Of course.
Because now you've got somebody who's, had to be abandoned from their parents. So it's that kind of nuance of that, that idea that there is no fix. And so we're literally supporting people in difficult situations. And I think that's probably the most challenging in the work that I do. Yeah.
Do you ever think that rather than having a coaching class with these kids, you should have it with their parents?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And in a way, I kind of do both, right? So I work with people, adults who are struggling, and I know that they've got children. But yeah, I mean, the trouble is even then it's not that simple, right? If somebody's struggling with addiction, if they're not in a place yet where they're ready to kind of make that change, then there's literally nothing you can do anyway.
Of course.
So again, that is another part of that idea of what is the most challenging in the work that I do.
That is, I mean, just I used to go through this whole thing about watching the Jeremy Kyle show when I was at university, because you had that time. And you see so many of these families' problems, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's drugs, whether it's family relations, all that kind of stuff that come on there, and they're openly talking about it. And right now I feel like as if this is the same thing that you may be going through I mean, you don't deal with family relations, but you deal with what you're dealing with right now. And it's the same sort of feeling that you must be going through every single day, right? It's like, these are so many people around here in front of me, but yet I can't do anything about it other than giving them the right opinion, giving them the right advice or motivation to sort of move forward in life and forget all of those things, right? And I see the challenges that you must be coming across, like, okay, dealing with an adult, 20-year plus, 30, 50-year plus, whatever they are, it's easier to deal with them because you can sort of connect. But when you put a kid into that equation, firstly, your mind level is not the same. And to get those things across, it must be a real challenge, because you don't know what they're going through at home. You don't know what they're going through in their heart. You don't know what they're going through in their brain. But yet, as an adult, you can always get that, because the adults will ask you certain questions that you have gone through as well, and then you can sort of connect with that. So what's next in terms of, I know you're an ambassador for the charity company, charity organization. What's next in the Josh Connoly world? I mean, where do you want to get at in terms of being a resilience coach?
So at the moment, I kind of, all the work that I do, I have to do in person, right? So I deliver a lot of like webinars to different companies, and then all the coaching, any one-to-one coaching that I do. And I do a lot less one-to-one coaching at the moment, just because of time, right? So I'd like to be able to create some more things that are online and are able to kind of reach people on a bit of a bigger scale. So that's kind of the next idea for me,
I mean,
is to have some.
I've seen your IGTV movies that you do, and do you have a YouTube channel as well that people can go up to and they can
Yeah,
listen to you and talk and see what you have to say about it?
yeah. So yeah, I've got a YouTube channel. So I've got on my YouTube channel, I do I've got a series on there called Irrepressible, where I interview people for like 20-minute interviews, where I interview different ordinary people that have had extraordinary resilience. And I've talked to people that have come through sexual abuse, that have come through miscarriage, that have come through addiction,
Wow.
parental addiction. Yeah. So it's just all these different people. And just helping people to realize that there's so much power in all of our stories. Um, so yeah, it's just more. It's more of that, more of reaching people, more of trying to help people to get them on that journey, really, to that self-understanding. Because I believe that most human beings know what they need at their core. They just have become so detached from their needs for whatever reason, that the actual real healing work is about coming back to that self. So yeah, it's finding ways to do that on a bigger scale.
That is super. I mean, do you think the UK government needs more people like yourself?
Yes. Look, I think, yeah, at a government level, to be honest with you, when you look at the lack of support and funding for young people in the UK, I think it's an absolute
Joke.
disgrace on us as human beings. I think it's an absolute disgrace on us as a society. I think any country, any demographic of people should be judged on the way in which they treat their young people and their children.
I
And
mean,
when you
if they get enough time from talking just about COVID on the TV, then possibly they might look at these issues. But for the last
exactly,
1 year, you're not getting anything like that. So, anyways, that's a separate topic. But the fact that you realize that, and I think if anyone listens to this from the UK government, do check this out, because there are people who think that the UK government needs people like Josh Connoly in this space to
yeah,
enhance the way people think and how resilient you can get from a kid to whatever your age is. This is what it's about, to help people, to share that knowledge with people, to bring that positivity up, so we, as firstly a nation, can grow, secondly as a human nation can grow. And this is why I had you here today. So thank you so much for coming on here, Josh. It's been a
pleasure.
pleasure talking to you, getting all that from you. And once again, I congratulate you on your second life. Please don't do that again. Don't think about all of that stuff.
Never. Yeah, no, good.
Super. Before you go, we've had a real positive live session. I don't know what more positivity to bring out of you, but uh, every guest that comes on here, after we've shared and we've spoken about everything, I do ask them for one last final positive advice that they could give the world. We've gone through, you've seen it on television. I don't need to mention it a lot, but a lot of negativity that's gone on around us, to put on top of the miseries that people are already dealing with. Now we have these things to deal with. What positive advice would you like to share with the world today so that they can take that on board and move forward in life?
Look, I would say that to anybody that needs that kind of boost in their life, is to understand that whatever you're feeling probably makes sense if you look at your story, and that if you do understand your story on a level and understand that the ways that you're feeling do make sense, then I believe you'll move through that struggle, and that's how you come through the other side. So growth is all about understanding exactly who you are, where you're at, and then when you can understand that, just know that change is absolutely possible. And I think my life story is proof of that, if nothing else.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an example of what you do, what you have done, from where you've come to where you are today, helping out other people to stop what they are feeling, or whether they want to go down that route of, just being an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever it is,
Mm,
and getting out of there and moving forward in life. Because if you can do it, thousands or millions or billions of others can do it. So thank you so
exactly.
much, Josh, for coming on here. It's
Thank
been
you,
a
my man. I've
pleasure to
really
have you.
enjoyed it. Yeah,
Super.
great. Thanks.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was Josh Connoly. I mean, if you're looking for some resilience coaching in your life, it doesn't have to be alcohol, it doesn't have to be drugs. Like you mentioned, he does talk to people who've gone through um, uh, social abuse, domestic abuse, or sexual abuse, or it be miscarriages, everything to build that resilience in your life, that you are a positive person and you can do it. So thank you so much to Josh for coming on here, sharing that with us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to all the viewers that tuned in, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.